Favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
America's Voice Live, America's fastest growing news program. With Steve Gruber.
You've got to put America first. You do that by voting and bringing your friends to do the same.
Delivering the latest news, observations, and opinions. With the entire Real America's Voice team, America's Voice Live starts now.
All right, welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber. Today is Thursday, June the 22nd, 2023. Let's get to the day's top stories. Thank you for being here. Will women soon be forced to sit on the sidelines of their very own sports? Well, if activists have their way, we might just see that very soon. Exactly that, in fact. Also, while companies like Amazon, Airbnb, Target, and Patagonia offer abortion benefits to their employees, another company is offering a $5,000 baby bonus to any employee who has a baby or adopts a child. The CEO of Public Square, Michael Seifert, will join me with the details. You'll want to catch that. And later, new reports say the Chinese want to put troops on the ground in Cuba. Troops on the ground. That can't be good. Shouldn't be allowed. Adam Roosevelt will join me to discuss that coming up. We'll have that. And breaking news, the submarine debris field has been found. We'll keep you updated on that as well. It did not turn out well. So we start here today. For just one day, former special counsel John Durham testified on Capitol Hill, and the longtime federal prosecutor laid out the problems with the entire investigation into former President Donald Trump and the baseless allegations it was predicated on. And I want to play this clip from it because it basically sums up the entire day, but not just that. The entire 4-year term of President Donald Trump. Listen.
2016, did our government receive intelligence that suggested Secretary Clinton had approved a plan to tie President Trump to Russia?
Yes.
Was that intelligence important enough for Director Brennan to go brief the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the Attorney General of the United States, and the Director of the FBI?
Yes.
And was that intelligence put then into a memorandum, a referral memorandum?
Yes.
And was that memorandum then given to Director Comey and Agent Strzok?
That's who it was addressed to, yes.
Did Director Comey share that memorandum with the FISA court?
I'm sorry,
Did he share that memorandum with the FISA court? Did Director Comey do that?
I'm not aware of that if he did.
Did he share it with the lawyers preparing the FISA application?
Not to my knowledge.
Did he share it with the agents on the case, working the Crossfire Hurricane case?
No.
Didn't share it with the agents on the case. Can you tell the committee what happened when you took that referral memo and shared it with one of those agents, specifically Supervisory Special Agent Number 1?
We interviewed the first supervisor of the Crossfire investigation, the operational person. We showed him the intelligence information. He indicated he had never seen it before. He immediately became emotional, got up and left the room with his lawyer, spent some time in the hallway, came back.
He was ticked off, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was ticked off because this is something he should have had as an agent on the case. This is important information that the director of the FBI kept from the people doing the investigation.
The information was kept from him.
That right there is what the whole Russia collusion scam boils down to. Former FBI Director James Comey, former CIA Director John Brennan, then Vice President Joe Biden, and former President Barack Obama himself all knew. They all knew. The Russian collusion story was invented out of thin air by Hillary Clinton's campaign to help Hillary and damage Donald Trump. And yet, they still used it as a predicate to open an investigation into then presidential candidate Donald Trump, and then once he was elected, tried to use it to take him down. That, my friends, has a definition. It's called a coup. And it should be one of the biggest stories in American history, one of the biggest scandals. That, and now on top of all of that, a sitting president accused for allegedly taking bribes from foreign powers and foreign governments. But I'm sorry, we live in an upside-down world where Democrats and the media believe that bad is good and good is bad. And anything done to Donald Trump or conservatives, no matter how despicable, is perfectly fine. In fact, it's encouraged. So, of course, Democrats spent the day yesterday trying to smear the man who, prior to being appointed as special counsel, was considered to be among the most honorable, honest, and hardworking prosecutors anywhere in this country. Looking at the report John Durham generated and the indictments it yielded, that still seems to be true, except to the dishonest partisan hacks that want to tar and feather a man who has spent 40 years in service to the United States of America. And for doing what? Doing the job he was asked to do. And he reiterated throughout the day that the investigation into President Trump, dubbed Crossfire Hurricane, had no basis in actual fact whatsoever. There was never anything to justify any of it. Here's more.
You wrote in your report, quote, based on the evidence gathered in the multiple exhaustive and costly federal investigations of these matters, including the instant investigation, neither U.S. law enforcement nor the intelligence community appears to have possessed any actual evidence of collusion in their holdings at the commencement of the Crossfire investigation. To date, has any evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia ever been uncovered?
I mean, there is information, obviously, in the report that was prepared by Director Mueller and whatnot. But as to collusion or conspiracy, I'm not aware of any.
And let me stop you. When the FBI opened Crossfire Hurricane, that's the issue at hand, it did not have any information that anyone in the Trump campaign had ever been in contact with Russian intelligence officials. Isn't that right?
As we wrote in the report, we talked to the director of the CIA, the deputy director of the CIA, the director of NSA, and people within the FBI, and there was no such information that they had in their holdings at the time they opened Crossfire Hurricane.
And look, this isn't exactly breaking news. We've known it for a long time. You've known it. I've known it. We've all known it. The Democrats have known it. But it is critically important because for years, people like California Congressman Democrat Adam Schiff ran around to every TV camera he could find, claiming he had the evidence, he had the goods that Russia had colluded with Donald Trump and his campaign to impact the outcome of the 2016 election. The problem is, none of that was true. Not one shred of that was true. And in case he and the Democrats try to deny that, which of course they have and will continue to do, we made this helpful little video montage showing a numerous amount of times that Schiff just straight up lied to you, to me, to everybody, to the American people. Here it is.
So you have seen direct evidence of collusion?
I don't want to go into specifics, but I will say that there is evidence that is not circumstantial.
You can see evidence in plain sight on the issue of collusion.
It is, I think, of a size and scope probably beyond Watergate.
Have you seen, do you have direct evidence of collusion with Russia?
Well, I think there is direct evidence.
I think it's corrupt and evidence of collusion.
What's your evidence? You've been saying that on TV for years.
Well, I will tell you, and I've also been saying, as you know, that the evidence is in plain sight, not hidden anywhere.
But as I've said all along, there's plenty of evidence of collusion and corrupt commingling.
And remember, every bit of this, every bit of that dishonest behavior was to get President Trump out of power. I'll say it again. It was a coup by the Democrats and their unindicted co-conspirators in the Department of Justice and, of course, in the national media. What we learned through Durham was that Congressman Schiff and others were willing to use their powerful positions, including his as House Intel Committee chair, to spin a dishonest web of deceit, of propaganda, to lead people to believe things that turned out to be absolutely false. And what is really frightening is that Schiff and a number of those socialist Democrats in his orbit don't care. I mean it. They don't care at all about you or this country or the truth. They think that what they did was okay, patriotic, in fact. They believe what they did was right because they were trying to protect us from President Trump, they claim, when really they were the enemy the entire time. And Schiff remains defiant even after being censured in Congress. Cocky even. Listen.
To my Republican colleagues who introduced this resolution, I thank you. You honor me with your enmity. You flatter me with this falsehood. You who are the authors of a big lie about the last election must condemn the truth tellers, and I stand proudly before you.
But moving back to Durham, who was hammered by the left and put on a pedestal mostly by the right, he said it is the rank-and-file FBI special agents and support staff that are coming to him on a regular basis concerned about the state of the agency and its future.
I have had any number of FBI agents who I've worked with over the years. Some are retired, some are still in place, who have come to me and apologized for the manner in which that investigation was undertaken. I take that seriously. These are good, hardworking, the majority of people in the FBI, decent human beings who swear under their oaths to abide by the law and the like. And I think that exemplifies of the concern here. There are investigative activities undertaken or not undertaken here, which raise real concerns about whether or not the law was followed, the policies in place in the FBI were followed.
And still the Democrats were having no part of it. Accusing John Durham of being part of the problem, even accusing him of trying to protect and defend Donald Trump. It's all outrageous. Of course, they have no more evidence of that than they did of Russian collusion, which is zero. And when his reputation was attacked, well, Durham drew applause for his pitch-perfect response. This is outstanding. Watch.
I tried to follow your report. Mr. Donald Trump Jr. would have called it a nothing burger. Mm-hmm. You got no convictions. You got nothing. It was all set up to hurt the Mueller report, which was correct and was redacted, to hurt the Bidens and to help Trump. And you were a part of it. You have a good reputation. You had a good reputation. That's why the two Democrats supported you. But the longer you hold on to Mr. Barr and this report that Mr. Barr gave you as special counsel, your reputation will be damaged. As everybody's reputation who gets involved with Donald Trump is damaged, he's damaged goods. There's no good dealing with him because you will end up on the bottom of a pyre. I yield back the balance of my time.
Sure.
Can we presume the gentleman's undecided on how he feels about the former president?
Gentlemen, the witness can respond.
Yeah, my concern about my reputation is with the people who I respect and my family and my Lord. And I'm perfectly comfortable with my reputation with them, sir.
Well said. God bless you.
Mr. Cohen, what he means by that, to translate, is he has no respect for you. And no matter what was thrown at him, Durham stayed on message, stayed on point, and kept laying out the facts and explaining how the FBI conducted itself and that it was shameful. Here's more.
Our findings were sobering. I can tell you, having spent 40 years plus as a federal prosecutor, they were particularly sobering to me. A number of my colleagues who spent decades in the FBI themselves, they were sobering. While I'm encouraged by some of the reforms that have been implemented by the FBI, the problems identified in this report, anybody who actually reads the report and the details of the report, the documented portions of the report, I think would find that the problems identified in the report are not susceptible to overnight fixes. As we said in the report, they cannot be addressed solely by enhancing training or additional policy requirements. Rather, what is required is accountability, both in terms of the standards to which our law enforcement personnel hold themselves and in the consequences they face for violation of laws and policies of relevance.
Now, I'm sure that John Durham, he's a pro. He knew exactly what kind of circus he was walking into on Wednesday. I mean, in a country this divided, you can certainly figure out what was coming next from each side. But even knowing what's coming, it's still hard to prepare for really stupid comments and questions. I mean, really stupid. Some that come from members of Congress that have no idea what Durham's been doing the past 3 years at all. For example, this guy.
None of the individuals you prosecuted were ever charged with being part of a hoax or a fraud or a witch hunt or a politically motivated deep state conspiracy against Donald Trump. Isn't that correct?
I would not say that that's accurate.
You mean you did charge somebody with being a part of a hoax?
We charged Mr. Sussman with having knowingly provided false information to the FBI regarding Alpha Bank.
But he was acquitted, though, right?
Well, that wasn't your question.
Mr. Sussman was acquitted after you charged him, correct?
Grand jury found
he was found innocent, by a unanimous jury of 12.
That's not true.
Well,
what's true is the grand jury found probable cause to indict Mr. Sussman.
A jury of his peers acquitted him, though, correct?
And a trial jury.
You're not going to disagree on that, are you, Mr. Durham?
I'm going to try to answer your question as.
If you can stop talking over me, Mr. Johnson, I might answer a question, but you're such an imbecile. Yeah. And he showed again just how really uninformed he is. This is the same guy, by the way, that thought Guam might capsize if there were too many American personnel on the island in the Pacific. It's true. Here's more.
To the extreme disappointment of some on this panel, your investigation failed to produce indictments against Hillary Clinton, correct?
That's correct.
Didn't indict Barack Obama.
That's correct.
Didn't indict Joe Biden.
That's correct.
Couldn't even indict Hunter Biden.
We didn't investigate Mr. Hunter Biden.
Didn't investigate Hunter Biden, their genius, but no matter how out of left field the comments or the attacks were, Durham was poised and professional. And all of this mess leads back to the basic concern for millions of Americans like you and I. And that is the weaponization of the entire intelligence community, but more importantly, the FBI and the Department of Justice. Because for many of us, there is a clear pattern of a double standard of law and order. Compare Donald Trump to Hunter Biden and look at what was done to Trump by reckless narratives and fake investigations into things like the Russian collusion, which of course never happened. AG Merrick Garland was asked about that. Here's what he had to say. Listen to this.
Do these cases reflect a different standard of justice depending on political?
So as I said, from the moment of my appointment as Attorney General, I would leave this matter in the hands of the United States Attorney, who was appointed by the previous president and assigned to this matter by the previous administration, that he would be given full authority to decide the matter as he decided was appropriate. And that's what he's done. And if you have any further questions about that matter, you should direct them to the U.S. Attorney to explain his decision.
But of course, we've already had whistleblowers come out and say that the Biden DOJ, that's you, Mr. Attorney General, interfered in that investigation into Hunter Biden. You know damn well you did it, so stand up and say so. The left believes it's now time to get really aggressive. They tried a slow-moving coup. It eventually worked. And with no repercussions to speak of for anybody involved, why not do it again? And why not make it even more obvious? Because who cares? They have the deep state in their pocket. In fact, they are the deep state. And the next Republican president, whoever that turns out to be, will have to get through the Democrats, the media, and the U.S. government to actually take power. And I say that because I don't think it's any easy task at all. Could happen in 24, 28, or 32, maybe never again. But if a Republican does take power, he or she will have to start revitalizing or just outright end these institutions that now think they can choose who's in charge. They can decide what laws get prosecuted, which ones get ignored. It will be a long process, but one that'll be well worthwhile. The government has clearly gotten too big. Clearly, they believe they're entitled to much more power than they actually are. It's time Americans remind them of their place at the ballot box, and I pray that happens November 5th, 2024. Something has to change. Coming up after the break, will women soon be forced to sit on the sidelines of their own sports? Will if activists have their way? We might just see that. Christina Kiefer, who is the senior counsel from the Alliance of Ending Freedom, and Selena Soul will join me next. Don't go anywhere. Over the last couple of years, we've all seen it. Male athletes dominating girls' sports events. And people are sick of it. Let's be honest. What's even more amazing is that in 2023, half of our elected leaders truly want us to believe that there is no physical difference between men and women. None. Watch as former collegiate swimmer Riley Gaines embarrasses Kelly Robinson, the first black queer woman, whatever that means exactly, to lead the Human Rights Campaign, a nonprofit that operates under the guise of defending human rights. Watch this little back and forth.
How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
It seems to me old Kelly Robinson there might want to do her homework. Venus and Serena both defeated by the 203rd ranked man in the world because they said that nobody ranked higher than 200 of the men could score a point on them or beat them. He beat them both, back to back. Now, if politicians and activists get their way, female athletes will soon end up on the sidelines and with no sports at all. Thankfully, female athletes are taking a stand as to what's happening. Christiana Kiefer, who is the senior counsel from the Alliance Defending Freedom, is joining me now to talk more about this. Christiana, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciated. So, what do you make of what we just saw there?
I mean, look, it's just a complete charade. The other side knows that biological reality is against them. There are clear physical differences between men and women. That's the entire reason we have women's sports as a separate category in the first place. And unless we continue to protect the female category, we really will see the beginning of the end of women's sports.
Well, and that's deeply disappointing. Also with us, Selena Soule, from the Alliance Defending Freedom. Selena, thank you for joining the conversation. We just saw Riley Gaines, who has become a hero of mine. I met Riley a number of times. She's been on this program several times. She's just standing up there, straight and tall, with a rock straight back made of steel, taking it all. How important is she right now in this movement and everybody behind her?
She's important in this fight. When I started speaking on this back in 2018, I was just 15 years old, and I felt like for a long time I was one of the only ones fighting for this issue. So I'm so encouraged by all the amazing women that have since stood up and joined me in this fight, because it's going to be much easier to fight this with the more voices that we have. Yeah.
So how are we going to make traction here? I mean, we know that they're letting men, Leah Thomas, into girls' locker rooms. We know that girls are being pushed off the podium altogether, losing their All-American status and everything else. What's it going to take, Christiana? What's it going to take to win this incredibly important fight?
Well, for starters, I mean, we're filing federal lawsuits to protect the female category. ADF has the privilege of representing Selena Soule and other brave female athletes in the state of Connecticut. It's the first federal lawsuit of its kind in the nation to defend and protect women's sports. It's also really encouraging to hear that millions of Americans across the country agree with us and recognize the unfairness of allowing males to dominate the female category. So we need more and more voices to speak out and stand up on this issue.
And Selena, I'll give you the last word here. I mean, I see some success. I see some states weighing in and saying, no, if you're born a man, born a woman, or boy or girl, whatever, however you want to put it, you're not going to be allowed to participate. Because, look, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. I mean, can you imagine a major league slugger, hitting the ball back at 45 feet in women's softball? It's dangerous. And I could make 100 other comparisons where there's contact involved, where people get hurt. I'll give you the last word here. How important?
It's extremely important to protect women's sports. When I was in high school, I had to compete against 2 biological males throughout all 4 years, and I raced against them dozens of times. I was never close to winning a single time, and it's just unfair that women are being put in a position now where we don't have the right to win in our own sports. And women are being sidelined, women are getting hurt. It's just not a fair situation, and everyone in this country needs to stand up and ensure that women's sports stay as women's sports.
All right. Christiana, Selena, thank you both for being here. Thank you for standing in there. And I know you get a lot of hate mail and protesters and so forth, but you're doing the right thing, and we all appreciate it and respect it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. All right, so we're going to have an update on the lost submarine. A debris field was found. A press conference is going on right now. We're going to get the latest when we continue on America's Voice Live. You know, it was probably inevitable from the time that communication was lost, an hour and 45 minutes into the dive to get to the Titanic. Sad news now. Earlier today, debris was found in the Atlantic Ocean where the OceanGate submarine Titan was supposed to be. Pieces matched up with that very same Titan sub. Here is what the United States Coast Guard had to say just before the program today. Listen.
Discovered the tail cone of the Titan submersible approximately 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic on the seafloor. The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the families. On behalf of the United States Coast Guard and the entire Unified Command, I offer my deepest condolences to the families.
It was catastrophic failure. 1 hour and 45 minutes into the mission. That's what happened. The company OceanGate also released a statement saying they now believe that our CEO, Stockton Rush, Shahzada Dawood, and his son Suleiman Dawood, Hamish Harding, a UK billionaire, and Paul Henry Nargeolet have all been lost. Our hearts are with these 5 souls and every member of their families during this tragic time. We grieve the loss of life and joy they brought to everyone they knew. Catastrophic failure. In other news, Just the News reported yesterday that a top 15-year FBI veteran sworn in an affidavit. Deputy Director Paul Abate addressed internal critics in February of 2021, urging them to seek employment elsewhere. Leave the FBI if you question anything about the J6 investigation. The whistleblower asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation. Didi Abate told the audience that anyone who questions the FBI's response or his decisions regarding the response to January 6th did not belong in the FBI and should find a different job or something to that effect. Empower Oversight wrote to DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz on Wednesday asking him to independently corroborate the whistleblower's allegations. Empower represents other whistleblowers, including Special Agent Stephen Friend, who's raising concerns about the FBI's manipulation of crime statistics, the treatment of J6 defendants, and its use of SWAT teams. Empower wrote to Congress stating this: FBI executives routinely retaliate against employees for expressing concerns about the FBI and the Department of Justice. If they belong to any other federal law enforcement agency, they would have more effective remedies for these prohibited personnel practices. Not good news. Coming up after the break, many companies have rushed in to provide expenses for their employees. One company has a better idea. Michael Seifert, the founder and CEO of Public Square, will join me with his baby bonus idea. He's up next on AVL. Well, Michael Seifert. He is the CEO and founder of Public Square, an app designed to link patriotic businesses with quality products, services, and exclusive discounts, of course. Seifert has announced that his company now offering a $5,000 bonus to any employee who has a baby or adopts a child. Other companies like Amazon, Airbnb, Target, and Patagonia are doing the opposite, offering abortion benefits to their employees. Strange, but true. In this way, they save money and still get to appear like they support women. Watch this.
This policy doesn't really support women. It's a lot cheaper and it's a lot easier to pay for the travel for an employee to go into another state to get an abortion than it is to pay for that woman to carry her pregnancy to term, the healthcare related expenses associated with that, to pay for her maternity leave, and to figure out company policies that can support that mother throughout her motherhood journey.
Yeah, and paternity leave and all of those things, yes. Seifert says that his decision to implement the baby bonus is essential for the well-being of his company. What a concept. Have children, raise families, not only are strong families good for our nation, but good for business as well. I like the story so much that I just knew I had to get him on the program. So here with me today is the CEO and founder of Public Square, Michael Seifert. Michael, thank you for being here. Good to see you.
It's great to see you too. Thanks for having me on.
I can only imagine that your inbox is colorful with those that are hating on you, I'm guessing, for having kids and supporting families. How dare you? Want to be a dad and have good families. Tell me about your decision to do this, and then we'll talk about the reaction to it.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for asking. We have been really frustrated watching company after company turn against the family unit. You just well articulated the point that we've been trying to make, which is corporate America says that they're promoting women's health care, when in reality, all that they're doing is trying to protect their bottom line. They're trying to spend less money on your parenting leave, and they're trying to, in the process, really keep you a slave to their corporate entity rather than empowering your family to continue growing and prospering. And we wanted to do the opposite. We wanted to sing the opposite tune. We wanted to say very clearly, with an unadulterated stance, that our company is only as strong as the families that have built it. And on a more macro point, this United States, we're only as strong as the families that keep it alive and well. Strong families make a strong nation. So what we decided to do is put our money where our mouth is. We're a company that is pro-life and pro-family. So we said, what if we actually, while these other companies like Amazon, Airbnb, and Target are spending $4,500 on abortion, what if we go and we say $5,000 after tax in a bonus on top of the family benefits we already offer to any of our team members that would have a baby or adopt? And by the way, that does not just apply to mothers. If you are a father who works for us, but you're married or your spouse is having a baby, even though she doesn't work for us, you still get $5,000 for your family. It's not limited to one child. And we want this to be a staple of our company going forward.
You beat me to my next question. You said I was going to say, does it apply to dads too? And you already answered the question. Good for you, Michael Seifert, for doing the right thing. So do you think this change? First of all, how many employees do you have?
We're nearing on 100. We're hiring quick. We launched nationwide. Yep, we're launched nationwide a year ago, and we're one of the fastest growing tech companies out there right now.
And anybody take you up on this yet?
Yes. We've had an incredibly positive response. And, the best thing about this is that for the few folks that have actually gotten pregnant in this time period and have taken advantage of this bonus, and we just had another 3 announced recently, they've just said that it's a great additive. It's a wonderful thing to know that their company cares for the furthering of their family and an expansion of that family. And ultimately, that's what we want to promote across multiple companies. We would hope that this is the start of a whole move in culture in corporate America, more companies to do the same.
Yeah, they could do so many different things with it. Now, they could buy diapers and they could buy baby clothes and all that sort of thing. Or they could put $5,000 into some sort of an investment for the child, maybe invest in the future. What a great opportunity. And so how many? You said 3 just recently, but several. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. Do you think it's going to encourage more people to have more kids?
I think what it'll do is it'll send a clear message that regardless of what stage of life you're in, our company has your back and we believe in the importance of your family unit. So yes, I think this is absolutely an added bonus, especially, by the way, adoption fees can be so expensive. And so for those families that are choosing to adopt, we actually offer this bonus right when they begin that process. We want to make sure that the childhood journey, the journey of birthing a child or adopting a child, is one that is not plagued in your mind with how are we going to pay for this and how are we going to make it work. We believe that the life of a child is so precious. We want to make sure that everyone in that child's life supports them, including the employer of their parents. So it's working well. We've had 4 parents already utilize this bonus, and any bit of pushback we get, is very ineffective from Twitter or the social media trolls, because what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say you don't like families? You don't like life? You don't like a company celebrating the expansion of family? We're really proud of our stance here.
I mean, Democrats are all for the Family Leave Act. Why not support the Family Leave Act with $5,000? It's kind of tough for them to say much of anything. You've got them in a corner, Michael. Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I'll give you the last word.
Well, I appreciate it. And I would, again, encourage many companies to take us up on the encouragement to do the same. We believe that ultimately this economy needs to shift toward a more pro-family stance, and we're glad to be in the thick of it.
You did the right thing, and you got some good press for it from us. And like I said, I was so excited about the story. I was proud of you. I'm proud of you, Michael. I am, because you are a great American today. I'll tell you that, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Great story right there. Family Leave Act, I mean, they can't push back. They've got nothing. All right, so coming up after the break, new reports say the Chinese want to put troops on the ground in Cuba. That can't be good, and it can't be allowed. Adam Roosevelt will join me to discuss China after the break. Don't go anywhere. As we discussed a couple of days ago, Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with China's Xi Jinping briefly. And in this next clip, if it's any indication of how it went, and it is, it didn't go all that well for Antony Blinken or the United States. We look weak and ineffective on the world stage. Watch this.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences.
Kind of looks like the Chinese were right behind him with a gun to his head, forcing him to say that. It's like a hostage video. Maybe it was. So all comes as China is not only trying to protect their military strength around the world, project that is, but in our backyard too, right in Cuba, because new reports say the Chinese looking to put troops on the ground in Cuba. So how should the U.S. respond to that? With me to talk about it, decorated U.S. Army military veteran. He served 2 combat tours in Afghanistan, was also assigned to NATO to support U.S. foreign relations. Adam Roosevelt. Adam, good to have you back.
Good to be with you, Steve. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And I know you're on the other side of the world in Dubai today. And so you're well-traveled. You've been on the front lines. You've been in hot LZs. You understand what we deal with militarily. Allowing the Chinese to come into Cuba when we didn't allow that to happen in the early 1960s with the Bay of Pigs and with the Cuban Missile Crisis, well, how could we possibly allow it to happen now?
Well, Steve, I tell you that the U.S. foreign policy strategy is definitely fractured in terms of its ability to be effective against China. China is using this stage to effectively create more influence in different parts around the world. They're doing stronger relationships in the Middle East with Iran and Saudi Arabia. This Cuba announcement is very interesting, but it is a strategic play in response to America's position in Taiwan. And this is to see how far America will go to effectively push back against China, given the latest trip we just saw from Secretary Blinken.
You know, Blinken was treated very poorly. First of all, when he arrived in the country, he was met by the American ambassador and a third-tier diplomat. He didn't even know if he was going to get a meeting with President Xi. When he finally did, he was seated several seats down to the right. Xi sat at the front of the table. They got together for about 35 minutes, which means they had about 10 minutes of productive conversation, maybe. And then he was lectured like he was a school kid misbehaving in 6th grade. It was embarrassing all the way around, wasn't it?
I share your thoughts on the meeting, and I'm unfortunate to have viewed it from the other side of the world and the laughing that is occurring in the Middle East and different parts of the world with America's performance on foreign policy under President Biden. But it is unfortunate that we've lost so much credibility, and we're continuing to lose credibility with our relations in Asia, Middle East, and different parts around the world.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this, though, because setting up shop in the Western Hemisphere is something completely different. The Chinese have set up shop, as we know, in Cuba. They're discussing building military fighter jets in Argentina. They've set up shop in Costa Rica. They have a giant Taj Mahal embassy now in the Bahamas where they've set up shop. They're surrounding us from the Caribbean to Central America to South America in our hemisphere. All while Joe Biden tells us that they're not a threat, that they're not competition to us, folks. Weird.
It's misinformation on the president's behalf, and I think that the entire objective of China was to deploy their Belt and Road Initiative, and it has intelligence capacities where they deploy agents into the United States and our allied territories like NATO partners. They've got strategic investments that they use to monitor the United States, our allies. They've been doing this for such a long period of time. Right now, we know that the national security strategy focuses on China, Russia, Iran. So to say that as the president, it's unfortunate, and it is misinformation, and it's really a negative impact to the American people because it's misleading the Americans around the world, and it's not in the best interest of national security.
It's certainly not. So why do we sit idly by? I'm going to give you the last response here. Why do we sit idly by? We can't allow them to set up shop in Cuba. We can't allow them to build fighter jets in Argentina. What would you suggest? Because if we do these things, if we allow these things to happen, we will have a gun to our head. Give you the last word.
Well, Steve, I think this is a clear indicator that there's something that's not being publicly discussed in terms of President Biden's relationship, because it is such a difficult position to make that statement that there must be something more that we're not being told. And I would definitely hope the intelligence community, the Department of State, comes out publicly and keeps the American people informed, or else we're going to continue down the wrong path and impact our national security.
Adam Roosevelt, always appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you, as always.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll get back to the news after a quick break and a message from our sponsor, My Patriot Supply. Folks, if you think you don't need emergency food, think again. The government recently revealed the truth about coming food shortages and the possibility. According to the USDA, some of America's annually planted crops won't be harvested this year. More problems in the future: drought, fertilizer shortage, creating problems, and that means food could get really scarce and very expensive. Is your family prepared for that? That's the real question. If not, now is the time to stock up on emergency food from My Patriot Supply at discount prices. Go to preparewithrav.com and you'll save big on each 4-week emergency food kit that you need for your family. You get breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, snacks. It'll keep everybody going strong, and best of all, the food's great. Your whole family's going to love it. And now, to save big on each 4-week kit you need, you have to act now. Go to preparewithrav.com. Preparewithrav.com. Get free shipping on top of all of that, too. What could be easier? Listen. You'll never forgive yourself if you let your family suffer with no food. Go to preparewithrav.com and get it done. After the break, a story that reminds us of why America's so wonderful, plus your answers to the America's Voice question of the day. I'll be right back. All right, so what makes America great? Well, how about American ingenuity, right? American ingenuity makes America great. A video captured by a kid cam shows a clever baby escaping from his crib by moving it across his bedroom while still inside. This kid is remarkable. The video you're watching shows the toddler trying and failing to climb over the side of the cot. Eventually, he figures out if he can move that crib across the room by pushing at the wall with his feet, well, we're going to get some action here. We're going to slide. Eventually, he manages to shimmy it enough so that it's near a bed so he can jump out. Baby, I'm free. Teeny Houdini. There he is, Teeny Houdini. Boom, baby, I'm out of here. Look at that. Climbing out of the crib with his teddy. He returns to place the crib back at its proper place on the wall, probably because his parents taught him well enough to pick up after himself, but not well enough for him to know he shouldn't perform escape maneuvers like that, or like Ethan Hill from Mission Impossible, if you will. But I like Teeny Houdini. That's what I'm going with, all right? Here's your America's, you loved it, didn't you? I love that. Your America's Voice question of the day. It looks like Hunter Biden got off with a slap on the wrist. Are you surprised? Charlie Brown isn't. Slap on the wrist, more like a pat on the back. Attaboy, Hunter. Or as his dad would say, pal. Yeah. Lynn Moore. No, Biden bought his way into the White House. I'm sure he bought his way out of being convicted. Well, he's got a few $1 million he didn't pay taxes on, so he's got spending money. Carla Watson Colvin, a true criminal who is truly privileged. Oh, it's white privilege. There's the definition of it. Very disgusting for good Americans. Bonnie Nichols-Ando, not surprised at all. Democrats are evil. And James Pavley, if we were found guilty of tax evasion and buying a weapon under a disability, I guarantee we would not be allowed to plead down a felony. This is why the Biden administration and the justice system is so corrupt. We'll leave it there for today. Don't forget, if you got breaking news or something happening in your neck of the woods, you tell me. Go to SteveGruber.com. SteveGruber.com. You drop me a line, say, hey, Steve, this is what I like about your show, what I don't like, and don't forget to join me to start your day on Rav every day. Bring a stiff cup of coffee. I will tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for the Steve Gruber Show, and I'll see you back here for Free for All Friday, AVL.
Here are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. The search for that Titanic tourist sub that disappeared over the weekend in the North Atlantic is no longer a rescue mission. Officials said it is likely out of oxygen, and it still hasn't been found. We have the live update.